question is from Ricci St. Jules. She's in North Carolina. She said, I have 3 kids between 9 and 15 years old. How do you suggest that I start teaching them about money and investing?
Oh my God, that's great. So what I've done with my kids now, Max is 14, just turned 14. My daughter is 15. So what I did is, since they were pretty young, I started, they would hear me talk about real estate. So I'd be eating or something, and I'll start talking to my wife at the time. We could talk about, I just put a tenant in and this. So what I did is I used to do with them what's called an hour of school. I did that on Saturday and Sunday. So I would sit them down, bring some fruit or something in front of them, the pen and a paper, and I'll just write to them. Now, the key thing to get kids to pay attention is to increase their interest. Will be something like, do you want to make money? Do you want to know how money is made? Do you want to know why there are buildings out there, and what does it mean to rent in a place? Do you know how we have this house? Things like that. So you start with some questions that are interesting. Oh, tell me more. You see, there is a house. So this could be a house that you can rent, or it could be a home where you can live in it. And when you buy it, you have to pay money for it. So, and then you explain the concept of paying cash. If you're renting, what's a tenant, what's a renter, the income, what's a mortgage, and little by little, I explain a part. Then they have to explain it back to me. I used to explain a part, explain to me. And the key thing is start always with word definition. When you define the words, the nomenclatures, which is the set of word definitions that come with the business, keep it simple in the beginning. You will be amazed how when you cover something with them on Saturday, and then on Sunday, you repeat what you covered yesterday and give them a little bit more info, little by little, within a short period of time, they really build on that knowledge and become very knowledgeable. And when I get in the car with them and I'm driving, I say, you see, this is an empty space right here. So we can bring a tenant. You see, right next door, there's a jewelry store. If we can bring another jewelry store, if I pay $1 million for this, how much should it make per year? And they would say, 10%. Okay, what's 10% of $1 million? And then they use their fingers. Okay, it's 100,000. Okay, good. So what if I get 12%? That's 120. Well, how much is that per month? That's 10,000 a month. Okay, but about this will go for expenses. And then somebody says, like my son would say, what are expenses? Oh, you don't remember? No, what does it mean, expenses? Okay, let's go through the definitions again. It's a lot of fun to teach kids. You will be amazed how sometimes you can even find the most basic terms to explain to them. And that means you need some training. And you go back to the word definition and define. And as you understand the definitions, you will get the concept and explain to them the concept, the idea behind it. Why would I buy a building and rent it? And why would I get a loan? My daughter was asking me the other day, why do you get loans from the bank? Yeah, because I'm paying the bank 5%, but the building is making 10%. So I'm making money on bank's money. Why doesn't the bank buy these buildings? The banks can only buy the buildings that host the bank. That's why you see Bank of America so big. Why? It's a great investment. Do you know that Macy's was going to be out of business several times, but they didn't because they own their real estate? And one of the most valuable buildings they have is in New York. Look it up. They own the real estate, so they didn't go out of business. Those who don't own the real estate are out of business. When Silicon Valley, when the market had crashed in the early 2000s, guess what? The actual companies that had bought their buildings where that they reside survived. They were able to get credit lines and survive. Those who didn't, and they were just started up borrowing money, borrowing, just on a business concept, collapsed, got bought up by the others. Anyway, so yeah, it's a lot of fun to teach kids. Start with the basics, do drawings, give them explanations, and then as soon as they lose interest, end it, go to something else. And if they yawn, that's good, because that means their brain needs more oxygen, because they're actually getting new information, they're learning. Have them repeat it in their own words. My kids like to write it down. And then I'll tell them, write the definition of this. They write it. And I'm always trying to tell them the positive side of things. So they wrote the wrong definition. Oh, this is a good definition, but this definition of encroachment, which is when one building goes on top of that, this is something else, but this is good. This is the definition of something else. The definition of this is this. So you're always, when you're training people or when you're working with people, if you want to correct them, you need to connect before you correct. You need to see what's right with people to magnify that, so the small issues, there is less criticism. Okay, if you criticize a kid too much, they will blow off, they will give you hell, they will walk away. I don't want it, I don't want to deal with it, right? So find the positive side, find the good things, and promote that and work with them. It's very exciting. That's a subject I can cover for days. Okay, cool. What else?
Jump into commercial real estate discussion like these people. Apply for CRE Mastermind. Click the link in description.